Hello, it's Cisvolk. Time to enjoy card making with me. I have been working a lot with stencils lately. Today I'm going to make a card using a stencil from the A00 series. I'm using this scallop nesting die and a die cut sentiment, which on it Happy Birthday or Happy Mother's Day, for which I'm using double-sided adhesive. I also use acetate sheets and various shaker elements. Let's get started. My card base is a C6 card, which is an A4 sheet in half. About 14.8 by 10.5 centimeters is the size of the front when folded in half. You can see that I powder my card base with talcum powder. Now I'm not doing that because I want to emboss, but because I want to tape the card and also mask the edges. The powder makes sure that the tape doesn't stick too tightly and that I don't tear up the paper when I pull the tape away. It's not so important that I stick it perfectly straight or that the edges stick out the same distance everywhere, as long as they are not too wide, because we do want to see the middle of the card. Just leave the edges wide. For the technique I am going to use, I've chosen a stencil from the A00 series, a stencil where the area between the open parts and the covered parts is about the same size and where there are not too many small details. You can see that it fits exactly on the card. I chose to make a red card. For this, I take 2 shades of water-based red ink. With the blending brushes from Alina, you can ink blend very well with them. I'm going to color the stencil with the ink, making sure that I smear a little more ink on the edges of the figures than in the middle of the open parts. So with the flowers, I blend a little more ink at the center of the flower than the outer edges. Each time I start at the center of a flower or leaf and then fade that ink to an open space. I also ink blend the darker color red over it in those same areas, very carefully from the inside to the outside. This gives it a nicer shade of red and gives the image a more spacious effect. And here's also a matter of trying out in which places you want to put some accent. But rather use a little too little ink than too much. You can always add some more. This stencil is very easy to put back when you have had a peek of how it looks. I clean and dry the stencil in between for the next thing, because I need the stencil again. I'm going to put the stencil back on the card, but not in the exact same spot. I let it shift slightly. It's only a few millimeters. Look carefully to see if it's shifted the same distance in all places. Now I take a black fine liner. I find that the Staedtler is very suitable for this because it also does a great job over places where the ink of the card is still slightly damp. Then I'm going to trace over the entire stencil. Each time, start in a corner and draw a straight line. It's best to start in the upper left corner if you're right-handed and work down to the bottom right. And if you're left-handed, you work from top right toward the bottom left, of course. Now in this technique, it's not so bad if you slip up a bit. Because we're going to make a shaker, small mistakes will not be noticed. But also, because the stencil is shifted, it won't be noticeable if you draw outside the lines just once. You can see that I keep my finger on the stencil in places where the stencil lifts as I draw around it. Drawing slowly also keeps you from slipping. This is one of the oldest ways I know of to use a stencil. I never really liked it before, but in combination with ink blending, this way I think it has quite a spectacular effect actually. Now comes an exciting part, and that's removing the tape. I do it very carefully and pull the tape away very tightly. If the tape is still too tight, it works to heat the tape with the heat tool. Then the glue is easier to release. but with me it's not necessary. I've used enough talcum powder. Next I take the scalloped frame dies and use the largest one to create a panel from the same white cardstock. Now I want to use only the edge of this and cut away the middle piece. For this I put help dots in the corners, so I know exactly how far I want to cut. By hand I cut away the inner part. If you have a die cut in the right size, then this is of course better and faster, but it can also be done this way. The inner piece I will use later. Now I am preparing to make the sentiment for the card. Alina has 3 different variations in these beautiful text dies. This is the Happy Father's Day die. Then I have the Happy Mother's Day die here. I used this one for my sample. And then now I'm going to use the Happy Birthday die. We are going to die cut it once out of white paper and once out of black paper. I cut the pieces of paper to size before I stick them on the adhesive sheet. So both the white and black paper I'm going to glue. And because I want to glue the text onto acetate foil later on, I prefer to use the double-sided adhesive for this. Alina sells these in packs of 10. With these adhesive sheets you can make your own sticker of any kind of paper or fabric, or even make your own glitter paper. Now it's usually very tricky to get the sticky edge loose, so I prefer to grab a needle then. You need to just pull one corner loose, which you fold over, then you align it to the part that's not sticking yet. The opposite corner I loosened. When it's in the right place, then you press it on. The rest of the backing you can now carefully pull off and piece by piece you glue it down. Die cutting is done on the paper side. Make sure you don't accidentally die cut on the tape side, otherwise the adhesive side is wrong. I also attach double-sided adhesive to the piece of black cardstock. I usually go over it with my bone folder on the side of the tape, so that the tape sticks well everywhere. After die cutting both white and black paper, I carefully removed the die cut from the paper so that the glue part was still attached to it entirely. With a nice watercolor paint with gloss in it, I paint over the black letters. This text will be the shadow part of the text, so not much of it will be visible, but it gives a nice effect. But it's not a problem if I overshoot or work sloppy. At first I took a light color pink, but I changed my mind and went over it with a slightly darker shade of ink. While this is drying, I cut a piece of acetate to size. These are A4 sheets and they look very matte. This is because there is a protective layer over the plastic on both sides. You can see it better when I hold a black sheet behind it. To mark off the size of my acetate, I put it on the die and I put dashes on the cutting edges. This way I can see exactly where I want to cut without wasting too much. I save the scraps for another project. Even these narrow strips are very useful for making cards. Alina sells several different rolls of tape in different widths. They always stick super well. I have the 3mm, the 5mm and there are 50 meters on a roll. I use the 3mm to attach the plastic sheet to the frame. Before I stick the plastic sheet on, I first remove the protective film. I leave the protective film on the inside for a while, because you don't want to put greasy fingers on the middle of the foil. I check again that the foil I removed is on the side where I am now sticking the acetate sheet to the frame. When I pull it off, I tape it back in the middle, so I can touch it here if I want. Here I have the 5mm white foam tape. There are 5 meters on a roll. This is the perfect foam tape for making shaker cards. It's important that the strips fit together properly. You don't want the shaker elements to fall out at the corners. Let's bring out the card again. In the meantime, I have found some shakers that I want to use. I alternate between sequins, beads and glitter. From AlinaCraft I have the bag of sequins here. I put the beads in between so that the light sequins will shake better later on. Now I wipe as much as possible to the center so the double-sided tape does not stick to it. And of course the beads roll all over the place. At last I add 2 kinds of glitters to it, hoping this will add more shimmer to the card. Again swiping and trying to keep it all in the middle. The plastic protective layer can now go away. I have a little corner here that I fill in, so nothing can fall out later. And the panel can be put on top. Now the plastic is quite static, so the little glitters stick to it. But I think this is quite nice on this card. If you don't want any static, you can powder some talcum powder on this plastic before sticking it on. Super cool effect this. By now the glittery ink is dry and now I can try to stick the text on the card. With this die, it can be quite tricky to stick the letters on nicely with double-sided adhesive, so you want to touch it as little as possible. I first tried the method of putting the paper back into the die and pulling the backing off while the die remains in the form. With small dies this can sometimes be useful, but due to the size of the die and the fragile letters, it is not possible to do this in this case. Therefore, I've removed it completely and use a needle so I don't have to touch it. By placing the die on the back of a piece of adhesive foil, I can still push the letters into shape. So that is one of the reasons I always keep backings of adhesive foil. With my needle I hover the sentiment above the card at the spot where I want to stick it. I choose to stick it a little bit above the center part. You can see that the double-sided tape is very sticky. I prefer double-sided tape to glue, because glue doesn't stick as well onto acetate film and can also make ugly smudges. Now carefully try to loosen the white text and keep it in shape. You need a lot of patience for this. But with a little patience and confidence, I'm sure it will work and you'll really have a beautiful text on your card. I stick the needle to the sentiment in the middle, in a firm spot, as an easy way to hold the sentiment. Again, with the needle, I let the text float above the previous text and press a little bit each time. The trick is not to make the whole text stick at once, but to work from an angle. Leave a shadow edge so that you can see a few millimeters of the black text underneath. My card is ready. But not a Cisvolk card without a matching envelope, which of course I decorate in the same way. I first ink blended the flap of the envelope and then drew over it with the fine liner. I also used the stencil to ink blend and trace a small corner. I don't let the lines go all the way though, so that also fades. Of course, drawing the lines can also be done with a pencil or gel pen or other color fine liner. Will you write me a comment in the comments to let me know what you think of this card? Or let me know which tips you found most useful? I also really enjoy reading your messages. For Mother's Day I already made this card. Here I have not added any glitter, but now you can see the underlying stencil a little better. Both are very beautiful. With shaker cards it's always a surprise what the card would look like in the end. I hope you enjoyed watching this video and I'm curious if you will try this technique yourself. All the products I've used are available in AlinaCraft shop. The link to the shop and the products can be found in the description below this video. Sometimes you have to click on the word more to see them. Links to videos for other shaker cards I've made can be found by clicking on the I button in the upper right corner, and they are also in the description below the video. Please also become a subscriber of my own YouTube channel Cisvolk. It would be so nice to reach more people with my videos. I hope you'll have a nice day. Thank you and enjoy card making with me. See you next time. Bye bye!